And this is where you started the Epitaph Group. So let's
Mhm.
start first with the idea and where it came from, because I know a lot of agency people. I've been doing this gig on my side for about 17 years, and it seems like 9 out of 10 people have always at some point in their careers kicked around the idea of starting their own agency. Not 9 out of 10 people started. Let's be very clear. That number is a lot smaller. But were you in that group of that 90 percentile, we'll say, who, for the 10, 15 years leading up to you starting Epitaph were like, I think I'm just gonna go out on my own. I'm just gonna start this. I've got enough knowledge and experience to do so.
I think I always kicked around I think from day one, like I think when I was that TV buyer at HYPN, I was like, what if I was in the corner office? So I had
I
aspirations,
like that voice.
but
Like that old
yeah,
school media person who smokes too much.
that's right. And
That's what it sounds like.
and I think that's what it is. It's like a little bit of a dream, right? And so Mike Rumble at 21 or 22 wanting to be in the corner office isn't that much different from a Mike Rumble at 33 that's like, one day I'm going to open my own agency. The realism's not there. And so I think I thought about it before. People would tell me, like you mentioned, like, Rumble, good name for an advertising agency, right? Like Rumble Advertising. I think I might have even trademarked that or incorporated that company at some point with a dream that maybe it would happen. But I don't think any of it was very, very serious until, and that's what they say is when experience meets opportunity. Um, that's when luck occurs. And I think it required something besides me just jumping into it, to starting something of my own. But I dreamed about it before, but I don't think it was realistic until that opportunity showed up.
And that opportunity was legalization of cannabis.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
legalization, I mean, it went through parliament at one point. I don't know at the time, and I think the time frame might have been more than even a year before the point when it got to the point where you could actually go legally buy it. When it
Yeah.
was first legalized, and again, it was legalized in parliament, but again, would still be another 12, 14 months before it was legal. Is that the point where
Mhm.
you said, okay, I've got a bit of a runway here to get this going? Let me see what
No.
I can do. No, not at all.
No, I guess I was just still working on TD and stuff. And what happened was a friend of mine who owns an agency in Toronto, he we thought about working together and maybe starting some media operation within his agency. And it never really happened because everybody gets busy. And again, it was just kind of a dreamy thing. Anyways, he phoned me up one day and he goes, "Hey, I got this buddy and he's got a connection to a cannabis company called Hexo, and they're looking for a media agency." And to be honest, like, cannabis was a special opportunity. The big agencies wouldn't take on cannabis clients at that point. So that wasn't really available to them.
I had no
Um,
idea. Is that because remember when cannabis was legalized and there was a lot of concern that if you crossed over the border into the United States, you'd be prosecuted for it? Like
right.
they even told
It
you
was the
not to
same
buy
thing.
cannabis with a credit card to use your debit
I think
card.
so. I think even banks said, like, listen, we can't give bank accounts to companies that are accepting dollars from cannabis companies.
I
Like,
remember hearing
you
that too.
couldn't
Yeah.
you couldn't get insurance on on your work with cannabis companies. So like it wasn't great for the multinationals, right? It was like they were still trying to figure it out. Um, and from my perspective, I could I could kind of do it all on my own. So like there's certain things that I know how to do and certain stuff that I don't. I don't know, like I didn't know how to buy a Facebook campaign. I didn't know how to do a search campaign, but both of those platforms you couldn't work on with cannabis anyhow. So we were kind of like, okay, this is something where I can go out and I can talk. Snapchat was actually one of the first platforms we got on. So there was very few platforms that we could choose from or that we could work with, which meant that it only required me, right? I didn't need a search team, a social team, performance team. It was like we just need to go out and try to drive awareness for Hexo. So it was the perfect moment. And I went out to Gatineau, Quebec, where the Hexo office was, and also the Hexo farm, which was pretty cool. And I went out there 3 or 4 times, and I remember driving back from Gatineau, Quebec, and being in the car, and they just said to me like, "Hey, okay, the business is yours." After pitching like 3 or 4 times, and I was like, it was like that Jerry Maguire moment of like, "Here we
Nice.
go," right? Like we're gonna open up or I'm gonna open up an agency, and I don't know what it's gonna be called, but I'm gonna open it up and I'm going to start working on Hexo. And that was the moment that it all kind of kicked off, and I could because I had a client, I could resign from my position and be comfortable knowing that that I'd be okay, or I was pretty sure I'd be okay.
Did you have to get any sort of legal representation or have an advertising lawyer, or I guess I would say a cannabis lawyer on the side
Yeah,
just to help guide you through that? Because there were so many
yeah.
restrictions, like you said. It wasn't just people weren't, it's not like you could advertise everywhere and people thought it was taboo and they were staying away from it. There were some pretty solid restrictions.
Yeah, so that was funny. The good news is that I was getting paid by Hexo, so I could employ and put on retainer a cannabis lawyer. The cannabis lawyer that I had liked to give me more advice on marketing and media than he did on law, but he was a cannabis
God.
lawyer.
So they would like look over your
So
creative and be
yeah,
critical of it.
yeah, you're paying them by the hour, then they're commenting on your plans. But it was helpful. I just wanted to be I wanted to limit any risk. Health Canada was also, very, very stringent, obviously, on any advertising. To try to go on Snapchat with a cannabis campaign and convince Health Canada that it was legit and followed the regulations. Like all of that was quite complicated and new. So I took that. I appreciate sometimes you look back and you surprise yourself. And I that was good. That was a good way to go about it, was to have some legal advice on what we can and can't do. Um, and certainly we had a couple of calls from Health Canada and we're able to very, very quickly actually kind of get over those and make them feel comfortable.
Is it safe to say that without legalization of cannabis, there might not be an Epitaph Group today?
I think 100%. I think it's crazy because there's a lot of negative perception, I think, around the cannabis industry, or yeah, just not negative perception. Just there's been bad case studies, right? Like you see retailers go up all the time, and then 3 weeks later they shut down. We've got our bad actors within the cannabis industry that kind of moved over from the gray market to the legal market, and it didn't go so well. But I don't think anybody ever kind of realized, like, this little advertising agency, even though we don't have a cannabis client anymore, it was incorporated on October 17th, I think, of 2018. This is a product of the legalization of cannabis. And I used to say, we're not cannabis activists, but I'm certainly an advocate of cannabis, not just in terms of the legalization of it, but also it helped some businesses, and it helped a business like mine. And I'm not sure we'd be here without it.
It's crazy because this is an awesome case study about timing.
Yeah.
Like without having all of the knowledge and ambition that you had built up and the timing of legalization, like those two things cross. Like, I mean, I don't want to call it luck, but sometimes it is luck that, the
It
Canadian
was luck.
government
Yeah.
said, we're going to legalize it finally. Been kicking that ball down or that can down the street for a number of years between different parties. And yeah, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like you said, some people, I have a hard time putting myself in the entrepreneur category sometimes, because there was an opportunity right in front of me. And at that point, there seemed to be low risk. And sometimes I think entrepreneurs are the guys um, that picked up golf balls at the golf course and sold them to out in the parking lot. Like, those feel like entrepreneurs to me. And so when we heard about legalization 14 months before, I didn't jump on a bandwagon and go, what am I going to do with this thing that's changed in our country? Yeah, I had to wait until it was right there in front of my face. I'm like, oh, there's something in this for me. And so there was definitely some luck, but I do believe in that saying of, like, it's timing and it's experience that come together.
Would you even say that all the experience you've had with cannabis advertising that you could unofficially qualify yourself as a legal expert in that field? Because I have to imagine if you're going in to pitch another cannabis company, all
Yeah.
the questions they've got, you're like, I don't even need the lawyer here for that. I could answer all of these questions. Like you've got a certain level of expertise that came from that experience that very few marketers in our industry have.
Yeah. So I think when we finished with Hexo, I would have said, like, we should have, it would have been great to start on something else right away. That's a few years ago now. We have a couple of restricted categories within our agency now, and unfortunately, cannabis is one of those. It's just a rock and roll industry, right? Like, it helped us a lot, but I find it's like, in our business, it's a high risk industry, and so I feel like I probably lost some of the knowledge that's, or some of the experience that I had has probably changed quite a bit in terms of what you need now. And as an agency, we just made the call that we're not working on cannabis clients anymore. Maybe we met some dynamite one that had the right purpose and the right values and the right vision. I'm sure we could be convinced, but that hasn't happened lately. And so I'd probably have to re-educate myself, I would imagine.